Hello, dear listeners and viewers. Welcome back to the Relationship Goddess Medicine Show, where you get legit, licensed, psychologically sound miracle cures for relationship insanity. And entertainment, of course. I'm Yaj, your host, and as always, I am thrilled to be here. And for our opening, as always, we light our candle. If you're home and you'd like to join in the ritual, get your candle, get your incense. Maybe you already have them because you've already started getting into the practice of this. Your candle, your incense, your Tibetan singing bowl, whatever it is that you do. But I always say, I invite the company of the light in honor of my mother, Mima, who used to say, she used to say candles are company. And that spontaneously on the show one day turned into I invite the company of the lights. That's my fancy little candle invocation. Not fancy, simple. You know, some of the best things are simple. And come on, baby, smell my fire. Cinnamon stick. We're almost out. I keep saying that. I'll be ordering more soon. I like to set the ambiance in the Yaj pod. We're in the Yaj pod, and I like to set the healing ambiance. We got the candles, we got the incense, and the music. We are in sacred space because I say so. By the way, this like because I say so thing I say, I'm not saying that because I say so like I'm being bossy. There actually is something about like I stand in sacred space because I say, claiming it. I say it, so it is. And so it is. Yay. So we have in the studio today, I'm so thrilled to be able to say, we have live in the studio today, one of my dearest friends, Julia Lucas, otherwise known as Raw Julia. Some of you may know her as Raw Julia. And she is amazingly multi-talented goddess, and she's going to be coming on a little bit later in the show to share a few things, but namely her emotional freedom technique mastery, EFT. Some of you may know about it. I'll say more about her later. She's a photographer, filmmaker, artist, writer, sister goddess. She's going to be coming on in a little bit. And I'm so thrilled that she's here. Makes me very happy. So I want to start with just like a little, share before I get into my relationship insanity rant. Sort of like a little, news, latest little headline of my life that I think will relate to you. I don't know how many of you watching, read or watched the movie The Secret back when it came out. God, now it must be more than 10 years ago. It must be pushing 15 years ago. When did it come out? But was her name Rhonda Burns?
Robin? No.
Rhoda Burns? Rhonda Burns?
Rhonda.
From Australia.
Mm-hmm.
It was like huge. It hit the Oprah circuit. It hit every circuit. It was The Secret. It was about the law of attraction that now so many books and people and teachers are talking about. But for a lot of people, myself included, it was really the first time I had it like laid out for me like that. And what was so amazing was that she quoted philosophers and scientists and artists and brilliant people from hundreds of years ago, and business, very successful business people from hundreds of years ago that have been working with principles about, if you say it, it is so. If you think it, you will manifest it. Whatever you think, you will have. So you don't want to think negative thoughts, and you want to really, focus on what you want and the positive thought. All this really great stuff. And yes, it was marketed, to the masses, so it was sort of watered down a little bit. So multi millions of people could grasp it more than if it was like too airy-fairy spiritual. But it really was part of the beginning. It was part of a period of years that really like kind of opened me up to start practicing this kind of stuff. And it was years and years ago. And something happened to me yesterday that I just really want to share with you, because in a moment I flashed back to a scene from the film. I don't know if it's in the book. I don't even know if I ever made it through the book. I own the film. I watched it a few times. I have the book. So yesterday, so there's a scene in the movie, The Secret. And they talk about, don't keep focusing on all the bills you have to pay, the bills you have to pay, the bills you have to pay, the bills you're late on, the negative. Focus on the money that's coming in. Think about all the money that's coming to me now, and it's so easy to be like, yeah, right. That stuff doesn't work. A lot of cynicism and negative sort of defensive thoughts, and that could never work for me, came out around that kind of stuff. You suggest the film or the movie to someone and they'd kind of blow it off. And I had my own, like I really loved it and I really liked a lot of it, but there were parts of me that were like, does that really work? And 15 or whatever years later, I can't say that I have billions in the bank. And I'm very willing to be very transparent on the show, to a point. But I'm not gonna fake it here, okay, guys? Like, I'm a still new single mother, and I'm paying for a lot of things on my own, and it's tough. It's tough. I'm self-employed, entrepreneur, still kind of, branching out into different things to have different streams of income. And I had a scene yesterday in my kitchen that was straight out of the movie The Secret, I swear to God. And I stood there dumbfounded. So there's a scene in the movie where there's this guy, and it's just like a regular old guy. I think he's British. I think a lot of the people she's Australian. Anyway, he's sort of like this like pudgy, real plain looking, I think balding, whatever guy. And they show him going to the mailbox over and over again, and it's just bills. Mm-hmm. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Bills. And there's some, I don't know whose voice is saying, don't keep imagining the bills. Imagine the check that's coming in. Like, even if you don't know where it's coming from, right? So, it's so easy to be like, well, no one owes me any money, and all my clients have paid up, and there's no check coming in. No, that's not how you're supposed to think, right? So, like, a check could magically appear in your mailbox, and it's so easy to be like, yeah, right. A check is going to magically appear in my mailbox. So I went to my mail, so like, there's a couple bills that are pretty important that I've been kind of like, I don't freak out. I'm not a freak outer. I'm just not a freak outer, but I've been kind of like, wonder how that bill's going to get paid by the date it's due. Well, got my mail yesterday, and I'm standing in my kitchen going through it, junk mail. And there's something from my adoption agency that I used to adopt my second child. And I adopted him pushing 2 years ago. Done. Many thousands of dollars paid to the adoption agency. Like, we're done, And I'm like, oh, this is going to be, sometimes they send out notices that they're doing a fundraiser and they want to contribute to some project they're doing, or it's going to be some letter about some report, post-placement report that you have to do for China every year, 2 years, whatever, or, I get mail from them occasionally. Well, I opened it up, and I'm going to tell you in a moment what was inside. So I open up the envelope. Like when it's like threefold, right? Trifold. Boom, boom, boom. And I see on the bottom a check written out to me and my ex, but that's okay, because that's okay. So, yeah. So, for a substantial amount of money. So I really was like, immediately, what is this? This is a mistake. This is not my money. This can't be like, this is a mistake. This is sort of like, I'm going to have to pay this back. This is like an overpayment from an insurance company that I'm going to owe back. Don't get excited. This is not your money. I mean, it was a substantial amount of money. And I'm like, what is this? And I read the letter, and it said, dear, because of the change in the requirements for post-placement reports, that's the reports that you have to get after you adopt the child, like a month after, 6 months after, a year after, 2 years after, 5 years after. Of several years ago, International Adoption Regulatory Agency made it more strict, where you had to do a lot more post-placement reports, and you had to pay ahead of time for them. I was not aware, I don't read all my mail, I was not aware of any changes in the requirements, and it just said something like, because of the changes, we are refunding you your overpayment, your payment, your prepayment for some post-placement reports. I could not believe what I was reading. I was like, what? I mean, this was the most magical kind of check that could appear in my mailbox that I could ever imagine. Yeah. I was like, what? And it's, of course, you could choose to send the check back and donate it to the adoption agency.
No way.
I love Julia. No, right. I mean, like, yes, of course. If I was in a position to do that, I totally support what they're doing. But I was like, I got bills to pay, yo. And it took me, I was like, I floated. I was like in this dream. I could not believe. So it's like, don't go into, I can't believe it. I believe it. Magic is the new normal. It happened. Now, a check came from nowhere. From nowhere. Think positive. Think that a check could magically appear in your mailbox. You have absolutely no idea what could happen one day. Now, was it as much as I needed? No. But do I want to focus on that? No. I want to focus on magic is coming to me now. That's my little exclamation point, my little highlighter, my little bell, yes. So that's my little celebration. So now I'm going to get into my relationship insanity rant. We're going to move things kind of a little quickly here today because we have a lot for you today on today's show. Chock full of stuff today. Oh man, but it's a really intense relationship insanity rant. So I'm just going to practice being succinct. Stop me if I'm repeating myself, please. The relationship insanity. Okay, so I Facebook about this all the time, but let me just say here, like on camera, I just did an all-weekend workshop with Judy Carter, who started out as a magician when she was a child, but she, got well known as a comedian, a comedian, and was successful, and then started teaching comedy. She wrote 2 books on comedy. One is The Comedy Bible by Judy Carter. There she is, with the 10 Commandments of comedy. And she also wrote Stand Up, the book. I don't have that one. And then she started becoming a motivational speaker with humor, about de-stressing, with humor. And then she started teaching people how to become motivational speakers and inspirational speakers. And then she wrote, more recently, The Message of You, which is a book that takes you really from A to Z. Anyone, practically, anyone can become a motivational speaker. If you have a story from your life that you're passionate about, you can become a motivational speaker professionally. And she holds your hand and teaches you exactly how to do it. And it's also incredibly therapeutic and transformational for the person going through the process, because you have to turn your messes into successes. That's her thing. You turn your mess into success. You have to turn something that was hard in your life into something that's inspirational and useful and helpful to other people. So she's amazing. And I splurged, and I'm really glad I did, on a private session with her the day after the workshop. I went into the city 3 days in a row, and I had an hour all by myself with her in a pub in the village while we sat, and she coached me personally on my journey to become a public speaker. And oh my God, this woman's insights, and oh my God, how she took my swirl of who's my audience and where do I start, and like it could be this, but what about this? But, yes, I'm about relationships, but could that corporatize, and boom, boom, boom. And it was this process of like how it just, and the session was 59 minutes and 59 seconds. I mean, is she a pro or what? When I stopped the voice memo, it was 59 minutes and 59 seconds. But she had an insight during our talk that I just want to share here, and I have to tell you, it was one of the most confronting things that any therapist, life coach, teacher, spiritual teacher, rabbi, shaman, Zen master, or public speaking coach has ever said to me. And I went into that very, very typical. So this is my thing. You ever have someone tell you something, anyone, therapist, parent, friend, teacher, that's kind of, confronting, like in that way of like, well, have you, taken a look at yourself and your part in this? And you instantly go to that like, yeah, I know all about that, but that's not me. Yeah, I know about that concept, but that's not me in this case. I know I do sometimes, right? And I did. I'm like focused on the session and I want to get as much out of it. And she mentioned something and I was like, yeah, I know about that. I'm a therapist. Of course I know about that, but it was really more this. And then I recorded the whole session and I was listening at home and taking notes from it and getting ready to start writing my speech. And it still didn't even fully hit me. I think I was like driving, doing an errand yesterday, and it hit me like a ton of bricks where I was like, oh my God, that's me. I need to take a look at it. And it's about being a victim. It's about every sadist needs a masochist. Dun 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 dun. And it's about if you're in the role of victim, or you think you are, or you're complaining, or you feel abused, or you might be a masochist pretending to be a victim, which was her words. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's not me. So, what Judy Carter, in her inimitable, brilliant way, was saying was that because I had delivered part of my story, we did all these exercises in the workshop, and everyone, you got a turn to go up and start telling your story, and just the way it came out was angry. And there is anger in my stories, but the way it was coming out, the audience was not liking me. They were siding with, the other person. They were not, it was not landing because it was just all my anger. And then I got some coaching, and the next day I delivered it differently, and it was like night and day, and the audience really wanted to hear my story, the audience in the workshop. And so when we were having our session, she was saying like, there is some kind of pleasure, the payoff. People talk about what's the payoff about being the victim, what's the pleasure in being the masochist. And it's so easy to just say there's no pleasure in it, I'm suffering. And when it hit me like a ton of bricks yesterday, it was like, wow, it does apply to me. It's ugly and unflattering. I didn't want to look at it, but of course there's payoff. And like I wrote in my Facebook post, it's not pleasure like, ooh, yummy, this is the best ice cream I've ever had, but there's a sort of demented, sick pleasure in look how much I'm suffering, look what they did to me this time, look what my ex did, look what he did, look how hard this is. I could write about it, I could write books about it, I could write Facebook posts about it, I could, and I do write a lot about narcissism, and, it's true that there is suffering, but the more you focus on that, it's not liberation. So I had this real epiphany yesterday, and it's not like I'm not familiar with the concept. I teach my clients this, I've worked through a lot of this myself, but there was just something about what she was confronting me on. She's like, that needs to be in your speech. And you need to look at this. It needs to be part of your speech about what pleasure you were getting out of being the masochist or the victim. And it hit me yesterday that like, wow, I really was getting payoff. I was actually considering writing a book about surviving, an abusive marriage, surviving relationship with, a narcissist. Like I was really like, yeah, I mean, these are, Julia's like throwing up in the corner. I mean, these are useful books, but motivational speaking is like you take your mess. I mean, of course, the book would have a happy ending, and I am going to write books, but, something shifted in me. And wow, is it a coincidence that yesterday, after the shift, or during the shift, or part of what helped me have the shift, was this lovely, spontaneous conversation I had with my ex sitting on the grass in the backyard, and we had this really open, nice, friendly chat about life plans, life directions, the children, family-wide, relocation, really cooperative. I even had this flash of like, God, would I ever want to even go out and grab a cup of tea, with him? And it's like I set aside, I'm a victim of him. But I didn't set aside my boundaries, and that's a key point. You have to keep your boundaries and not totally say, it's all just fine, this is great, we're best friends. I'm not saying that. Setting aside being a victim is not the same thing as setting aside your boundaries. And I could go on, but it's beyond the scope of what I want to say today. It was mind-blowing. I wrote to Judy about it. I put it on Facebook. I'm talking about it here. The magic, it's like the check in the mailbox. I was cooking dinner last night, and he dropped off the kids, and it was like, he probably wants to stay for dinner. I kind of feel like maybe, I should say, would you like to stay for dinner? But my boundaries, and you don't always know the right thing to do. And I invited him to stay for dinner. It was lovely. It is harder to walk the line of, as opposed to like, no. But if we live with no, it doesn't leave room for the magic to come in. So you have to stay eternally vigilant with the boundaries, but they don't have to be so, sometimes they do have to be militaristic. I don't know. It's a case-by-case basis. You have to figure it out. But the point here is just, sadists need a masochist. That is classic codependency. The abuser needs an abusee. The narcissist needs someone who's willing to give them narcissistic supply and be a victim. And so if you're not willing to be a victim, it might mean you need to get out of your relationship, but you don't have to get out of it as a victim. You can get out of it like, no, that's not right for me anymore. That relationship expired, but I don't have to have hardness in my heart. So the miracle cure, and she was saying in our session, you need to own your part. Everyone needs to own their part. And I was like, yeah, I own my part. And then what hit me, was like, wow, I wasn't really owning the pleasure and the payoff I was getting from, like, I really don't like to admit it. Like, in my own way, I was kind of like parading as a survivor of an abusive relationship. I'm making Julia throw up again. I know. I was kind of parading around, and so I wrote on Facebook, enough explaining, psychologizing, about narcissism, about being an abusive. I could do that, and I could do it intelligently. Like, it's important information to understand the dynamics. And then there's a time to just be like, now I'm really about joy and my empowerment and boundaries, definitely. And so owning your stuff, big time, and catching yourself when you're going, yeah, that's not me. So that's part of the dose of the day. The miracle cure is catch yourself when you're like, yeah, that's not me. Just take a moment. It might be you. See if there's some denial and own it. And if it's like, if there's a moment of like, ew, then it's definitely something you need to own. If you're kind of like, ew, that's not me. It's probably you. Whew, it always gets a little hot in here when when I start getting, into the real stuff. I'm getting a little warm. So I don't have to take a jacket off because it's actually warmer weather now. It's time, the portion of the segment of the show, we have reached the wardrobe medicine, the affectionately called what the hell am I wearing portion of the show, which I said last week is going to start being Buddha bonkers. I'm shouting myself out now. Duh. Yay. Duh, right? Yeah. Like Romantic Depot, maybe I'll go back to that, but like I have a t-shirt shop. Competitive Zen. It's competitive Zen, right? Well, it's Buddha bonkers, right? But like that, the whole theme of Buddha bonkers is competitive Zen, obviously tongue in cheek. So today it's my ego is smaller than yours. Get it? BuddhaBonkers.com. T-shirts, sweatshirts, underwear, aprons, baby clothes, onesies. You can get it all at BuddhaBonkers.com. And it's a perfect segue to introduce my beloved friend, Julia Lucas, otherwise known as Raw Julia, because we've had such synergy when we get together. Business, I call them entrepreneur-gasms. We have so many entrepreneur. Oh my God, that's such a great idea! Oh my God, that's such a great idea. Run to GoDaddy.com, see if it's taken. Like we just like really spark each other's creative juices. And she's a woman of so many talents. I'm gonna let her, say what she wants to share with us today. But I have personally benefited from her amazing mastery at EFT, emotional freedom technique. I have benefited from her, may I say, website building. Yes. She built my website go to therelationshipgoddess.com. She built that website. It's gorgeous. Photographer, filmmaker, writer, goddess. She does Mama Gina's School of Womanly Arts work and brought me into it and opened me up. So many things. We're going to bring her on and she's going to share some juicy stuff with us. I'm burping as I'm about to. The amazing, the beautiful Julia Lucas. I'm in love with this woman, and I want you to say, I've known Julia for many years, but we've been close. I'd say for what, like 4 years?
A few years.
Yeah. Yeah. Even though I met you like 11 years ago.
I know.
Yeah, we were sort of like nyackers, and now we're bosom buddies.
Yeah, it's great.
So what do you want to? Yeah, it's so great to have you here.
I put my hair in curlers this morning just for the show and painted my toenails.
Yep.
So
she knows how to goddess up. She knows how to goddess up this one. So what do you like? You have so many amazing things that you do. What do you bring? What do you want to lead with? What do you want to share with us today?
Well, I am doing right now the Mama Gina School of the Womanly Arts Mastery Program, and it has really, really shifted the whole game for me. Mm-hmm. And I have too been a victim with a great story.
About being a victim.
Yes. I mean, so many things happened, and I could, I got a lot of things from that. I milked that cow really long and hard. We squeeze
everything you can out of that victim story. There's more. Wait, there's more.
Growing up, we used to say, milk that cow. And I did. I milked it.
Because you grew up where?
I grew up in West Virginia and Pennsylvania. Very rural, at least in Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, some rural in town. But definitely with a southern accent in West Virginia. And I've realized that I kind of have suppressed it and that I need to express it. So I express it through singing now, which I never thought I could sing until last year. And so I need to sing in my native tongue so that I have a full range of expression. As Mama Gina says, play all 88 keys of the piano.
Nice.
Instead of just C, 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 C. Play them all from rage, joy, pleasure. Play it all.
The rich tapestry of all of our feelings. Speaking of which, I didn't kiss you or hug you.
Mwah.
How can I forget to hug and kiss my guests? Terrible.
Yes.
So I love that. And we're going to sing. We are going to sing. Yeah, we're going to sing.
I brought my childhood favorite song. It's a duo about love, legendary love.
How cool is that?
Yes, which is one of my great desires for this year.
It's legendary love.
Legendary love. And so I have had this story of being a victim. I've definitely had a payoff. And it was like a justified victim story.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they all are.
Yeah.
He really did do it. It's true. And that's one of Judy Carter's things. She goes, I don't care if it's true.
Yes.
True isn't funny. True isn't motivational necessarily.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true.
And there's something called radical forgiveness, which is about, instead of forgiveness, I mean, forgiveness is so, like, greater than thou. I forgive you. I need to forgive you because you've wronged me, and of course I was upset and a victim, so I forgive you.
Yeah, I get to be the forgiver, the bigger person.
So radical forgiveness is, what if nothing was wrong to begin with? What if we needed to go through this and do all this and whatever? And I was asked to speak recently at something for everyone was going to be identified as having been abused. Now,
Oh.
now, last year this would have been my glory moment. Finally, I'm being recognized.
I'm going to get heard about having been abused.
Yes.
Yes.
Even though so many people have heard me over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, all the people I've cornered over and over and over and over again.
I don't know what she's talking about.
And it's no judgment on them. I have no idea. You know, it's obviously what they need to do, and I'm sure it's going to be a great event. But it was something that didn't resonate with me, and it's because, oh my gosh, I don't feel it in my cells anymore that I've been abused.
Wow. That's like...
It's not even like act as if. I'm going to act as if and not interact with that. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I was abused.
That's like freaking huge.
Huge.
Something shifted.
The Mama Gina stuff is brilliant, and it has helped me just own the story as a beautiful story that makes me who I am.
Yeah.
It's the courtesan's journey, and it's my journey, and I mean, I don't even fully know how to express what is shifting.
You don't have to.
But I've done 2 weeks. I'm in the 4-month long program. I've done 2 weekends of 4 weekends. So
you're still in process, baby. I mean,
Oh
we're all
my
still in
gosh.
process, but you're really in the cooker.
I am really, really in the cooker,
Yeah.
and it's fabulous.
So awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much to say. I was telling Julia before in my kitchen, I want you to come on and just be a regular guest.
Okay.
You know, if you want to. I just want you, because it's just like a million things we could share. You could
yes.
do, and we could just talk on camera, and I don't know, you'll let me know. I think it'll be interesting for the viewers. If we could talk about this, we could talk about this, we could talk about this, we could talk about this. You know, I was about to reach for the book, the Mama Gina book that I held up for you guys last week to show all the piles of books that I've been reading lately.
Yes.
You know, so there's so much. Do you want to talk about EFT?
Sure.
Well, I mean, if you don't, we don't have to.
No, we can. Let's do.
You want to? Okay.
Yes.
Let's do.
Let's do.
I love that phrase. So, because I've personally experienced you doing EFT, and you know, why don't you tell the audience just a little bit about what it is? It's becoming more and more popular.
It is.
But it's not the same in everyone's hands, like anything. And in Julia's hands, it's brilliant. Just your way with it.
Thank you.
Is so powerful. Briefly, just say what it is.
Okay, I will. I'll tell you a little bit about how I got into it. Also, it's actually Emotional Freedom Techniques.
Techniques.
Yes,
Sorry.
EFT. That's okay. And it was developed about 30 years ago by this man. Well, first Roger Callahan, and then Gary Craig was one of his students and developed it on how it is today. And then there are many people who have added to the canon of techniques and development of it. And it's combining modern psychology and investigation with tapping on acupressure meridian endpoints.
So it's meridians like in Chinese medicine?
Yes.
So it's using the actual meridians from Chinese medicine. I mean, I know it's not Chinese, but they go Chinese medicine.
Yes.
It
is.
Cool.
It is. And so, say someone has a trauma when they're 6, their father says something, or someone says something, or does something, and they develop a belief system and a pattern from that trauma, which I don't even know if I like that word anymore, trauma. But just for conversations, we have a language to talk about it.
Yeah, let's come back and talk about that in a second.
Yes.
I know we need to just pause for a moment.
Okay.
So you were saying trauma.
Yes.
Let's not.
Okay.
Let's not go into a big whole thing on that.
No.
But meaning like.
Yes.
There are things that get lodged in our body.
They get lodged in our bodies.
Yeah.
And then we develop a belief system and patterns of behavior based on that. You know, someone says something or does something, and we're like, and then, then 30 or 40 years later, we're like, why am I like this in relationships, or why do I have this pain? So through psychological investigation, I can help someone. Well, I find out the root of where that happened, and then we do tapping about that. So I just wanted to share a brief miracle story.
Yeah.
A man came to see me last year, and he had been housebound with a back injury for many years. And not many years, sorry, many months.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in his mid-60s, and he couldn't walk. He had to come in with a walker. I did some psychological investigation, tested it. Testing is a big part of EFT, and had him stand up. Within a half an hour, he was able to stand up on his own. After an hour session, he walked out of there, never needed the walker again. Then went back to work, texted me like a couple weeks later. He took a 2.5-hour walk.
It's wild.
Yeah, was on his hands and knees chipping the ice from around his car 2 days later. And I've had other more subtle miracles of people just completely changing, and it doesn't take long.
It's amazing.
So it clears that charge from your body.
And I just want to say something about this. EFT's been around for a long time. I heard about it years and years ago, and it really is part of a various bodies of work that have been coming out more in the past, 10, 20 years into the mainstream awareness, that are completely backed up. For those of you who want to hear this, scientifically, this is not, this is the kind of thing that some people could be like, oh, it's woo-woo, right? It's not. It's like acupuncture. Years and years and years ago, people thought was woo-woo, and now, you have people, maybe not in the United States, having surgery with just some needles with no anesthesia. Like, it's backed up because it's like what was the other one? EMDR. The rapid eye. It really is tied to real things about what's in the body and how the brain holds things and the body holds things, and there are certain physical things, tapping, eye movements, in all these few bodies of work that have gained tremendous respect and have legit miracle stories. Not like, some quack. No, because something can shift and be released from the body, and a person's life can be changed.
Right.
And there's lots written, if you want to read about it, there's lots on the internet, books probably, on EFT that totally backs it up. This is not some weird, marginalized thing. It's becoming more and more and more and more accepted and practiced and used.
Yes.
So it's very cool.
Yeah, and what can be special, I think, with sessions with me is that I draw on, my filmmaking and writing background, and bring in, the hero's journey and meditation. I'm a meditation teacher. In my lineage, I've been studying meditation for many years, so I bring in presence. And I mean, if we didn't have these behaviors of thoughts, I think now of behaviors as at the thought level.
Yeah.
So I work on my own behaviors at the level of thought. So if we didn't even have these thoughts, these limiting thoughts and beliefs, we wouldn't even have to do EFT.
No, it all comes down to the thinking. The thinking. I could talk about what I've experienced when Julia has worked with me, but why don't we do a demo?
Yes.
But I will say that what you just said makes so much sense because my ex is also, he was an English teacher, he's a writer, and he's a coach. And part of what makes him such a brilliant coach is that he's able to see the big picture. He's able to distinguish storylines and plot lines and grasp a person's persona, character, the whole. And that I never thought of that.
Yeah.
That is part of your magic and why you're so good at getting it's the words, it's the practitioner's ability to put things a certain way, to get right in there and say it in a way that really helps the person who's receiving it. And you are so brilliant at that.
Thanks.
No, we're not going to be able to show it. You're welcome. We're not going to be able to show a whole session. You could do a session for 45 minutes, 90 minutes. you know, a session can
Right.
be long, but we can give a little snippet
Yes.
to our viewers.
And I also like to have people come out of the junkyard and rest kind of in the cafe on the edge of the woods, and then go into their journey and face their dragons, the squirrels they get distracted by, and whatever.
I love the metaphor. I love the metaphor. Come out of the junkyard, have a little rest in the cafe,
Yes.
and then go on your hero's
Yes.
journey.
And know that the junkyard dogs are going to bark like hell as you're walking out of the junkyard. They're
Like
going to
pulling you.
snipping at your ankles and barking even louder because you've been in there for a long time and they're used to you being in there.
To try to keep you in.
Yes.
I love
but
this
you
metaphor.
just keep walking. Just keep walking.
And that's a perfect metaphor to like embrace your heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got some junkyards where you come from. Yeah.
Yes.
Not that we don't have junkyards here, but I love that metaphor. That's perfect.
Okay.
So what do we do?
Okay. So what's going on for you today, or what would you like to work on?
So I think, in light of what I was sharing before, can it be said as a positive or a negative? Or
Well, tell me the truth. Do you want to work on that limiting belief that you had about being a victim? Do you still feel it in your body?
Or whatever's in the way of me fully claiming my power. You know, my power.
What's in the way of you fully claiming your power?
Okay, so it would be like when I looked at that magic check, and it was like, oh my God, this is an incredibly magic moment, and there was still a little voice of, but it's not enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That.
Okay, so
Like, wow, I can attract magic, but not enough.
Yeah.
Magic.
So close your eyes, tune into your body. Where do you feel like it's not enough? And what do you call that there?
Can I just give it a sound?
Sure. Is there a color or a shape there?
It sort of looks like this, like ribs or like a cage,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, holding,
Yes.
it's like metal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like steel gray, dark metal bars.
Okay. I'll just hopefully remember that. And on a scale of 0 to 10, what's the intensity of that feeling?
You know, it depends. Right now in this moment,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now in this moment, because I'm picturing it, it's a little higher. You know, it comes and goes. It goes
Mhm.
up and down. But
So
like,
just in this moment.
it's like picturing it, like as metal bars, like in a cage. Here, it feels like an 8.
Okay. And when do you first remember feeling this feeling?
Oh, right, that question. So, you know, it's one of those things I could say it's my whole childhood, but it's generally kind of difficult for me to pinpoint the first. I generally have difficulty with like when was the first time you felt like this. But if I think back, like you want a specific, like a day, like at the specific.
Well, whatever's coming to you. Is
So
there
what-
an event that is coming to you?
It's every Sunday. Like I can't picture a specific one.
Mm-hmm.
Waiting for my dad to come pick me up by the window of the living room, knowing my parents didn't talk to each other, that I had to, you know, when his car pulled up, it was like this awkward moment, and it was like, okay, bye, Mom, you know, Dad's here, and like, 'cause they didn't even say hello or anything, and it was just this feeling of like, ugh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like, I'm never gonna get to have normal flow, normalcy, you know, that kind of like, this is as good as it gets. My dad pulls up late usually, and they don't talk, so like I have to, you know, kind of be the one, and it just that,
Okay.
and waiting, the waiting for him, like why can't he be on time, and like I don't like this waiting, it gives me anxiety, it's like this feeling, you know.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
So now you can open your eyes. So we're going to start tapping on the karate chop point, which is this fleshy part along the side where you would karate chop something. So you're going to repeat after me.
Yeah.
Even though I have this feeling.
Even though I have this feeling.
Waiting for my father.
Waiting for my father.
This,
This,
They're not speaking.
They're not speaking.
I have to be the middle person.
I have to be the middle person.
Waiting for him out the window.
Waiting for him out the window.
Watching for him.
Watching for him.
He's always late.
He's always late.
There's never enough.
There's never enough.
There's never enough of my dad.
There's never enough of my dad.
So I believe in magic.
So I believe in magic.
But there's never enough.
But there's never enough.
It's never going to be enough.
It's never going to be enough.
Even though I feel this.
Even though I feel this.
It's like a cage.
It's like a cage.
These ribs.
These ribs.
These, exaggerate it.
These,
I deeply and completely
I deeply and completely
love and accept myself.
love and accept myself.
Take a deep breath. Even though I have this feeling.
Even though I have this feeling.
This cage.
This cage.
These ribs.
These ribs.
I'm locked inside.
I'm locked inside.
There's never enough.
There's never enough.
Even though there's plenty of magic.
Even though there's plenty of magic.
I believe in it.
I believe in it.
But there's always a tail ender.
There's always a tail ender.
There's not enough.
There's not enough.
It reminds me of sitting and waiting for my father.
It reminds me of sitting and waiting for my father.
There was never enough of him.
There was never enough of him.
And I've carried this my whole life.
And I've carried this my whole life.
My mother was a single mother.
My mother was a single mother.
Strong.
Strong.
So I have to be like that.
So I have to be like that.
And there was never enough of my dad.
And there was never enough of my dad.
And I've been carrying this with me.
And I've been carrying this with me.
Probably have played it out in my relationship.
Probably have played it out in my relationship.
And after the divorce.
And after the divorce.
Probably played this out.
Probably played this out.
I've got to do it all myself.
I got to do it all myself.
Sitting here alone.
Sitting here alone.
Waiting for my father.
Waiting for my father.
But I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
But I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
And do believe in magic.
And do believe in magic.
So we'll go to the eyebrow point, which is where the eyebrows end for most of us.
Unless you have a unibrow.
All this waiting.
All this waiting.
Now we're going to go to the side of the eye. There's a little bone. Yeah. It's never enough.
It's never enough.
Under the eye, on the bone. There's never enough time with my dad.
There's never enough time with my dad.
He's always late.
He's always late.
I have this feeling.
I have this feeling.
In this cage.
In this cage.
This,
This,
waiting for him.
Waiting for him.
And on the collarbone. This yucky feeling.
This yucky feeling.
They're not talking.
They're not talking.
And I have to be the middle person.
And I have to be the middle person.
It's not my job.
It's not my job.
But I have to take it.
But I have to take it.
Now we're going to go to these tender points right on the chest. Like, do you feel, there's like called sore points?
Yeah.
Do you feel those?
Yeah.
Okay. So sad.
So sad.
There's never enough of my dad.
There's never enough of my dad.
It's made me feel like there's never enough.
It's made me feel like there's never enough.
I have this little secret, desperate feeling.
I have this little secret, desperate feeling.
Does that resonate?
Yes.
Yeah.
See, she's magic. I have this little secret, desperate feeling.
And behind the cage.
Behind the cage.
There's never enough.
There's never enough.
No matter how much I believe in magic.
No matter how much I believe in magic.
There's this little girl sitting on the couch.
There's this little girl sitting on the couch.
Waiting for her father.
Waiting for her father.
Looking out the window.
Looking out the window.
And he's late.
And he's late.
And they're not speaking.
And they're not speaking.
And there's never enough of him.
And there's never enough of him.
Every Sunday I go through this.
Every Sunday I go through this.
And my body's been carrying this.
And my body's been carrying this.
And I've been playing out the whole scene.
And I've been playing out the whole scene.
As a single mother.
As a single mother.
I've got to be strong.
I've got to be strong.
And tough.
And tough.
And then with the father.
And then with the father. The ex. The brother.
There's never enough.
There's never enough.
They never do enough.
They never do enough.
I'm always a victim.
I'm always a victim.
Of this little scenario.
Of this little scenario.
It's the story of my life.
It's the story of my life.
Now go to what's called the underwire point if you had an underwire bra on.
Yeah, no, I don't wear bras anymore, so I got to go into the boobage. You know what time it is, right?
Okay, yeah. It's okay. It's never enough.
It's never enough.
I play out this whole scenario.
I play out this whole scenario.
It's the only option.
It's the only option.
That's the option I'm choosing.
It's the option that I'm choosing.
But maybe there's another way.
But maybe there's another way.
I want to go under the arm. And go to the top of the head. Who would I be without this little story?
Who would I be without this little story? Little Byron Katie there. Use whatever works, right?
Yeah.
Who would I be without this thought?
And this belief.
And this belief.
It's been stuck in my body.
It's been stuck in my body.
Okay, now we have a cliffhanger.
Who would I be?
Yes!
That's next week. Tune in to find out who would I be without this thought. That was awesome. Is that for now? Like
for
that?
now?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel in there?
Better. It's like they're a lighter gray. They're not dark black gray.
Yeah.
And they're opening.
Good.
It's like the prison cell is.
Ooh.
It's more like this.
And on a scale of 0 to 10, what's the intensity?
It's like a 5 or like a
Okay.
maybe below a 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can keep tapping on that.
Yeah.
And
that was
the
good.
most important part is to activate it in your body.
Activate the negative.
The pain. The pain, the
and
truth.
And then tap on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I love about EFT. It's not about like positive affirmation.
Yes.
Yes, there's positive things you say, but first you have to like feel the...
Well, the way you use affirmations in EFT is look for the tail ender. I believe in magic.
Yeah.
But...
yeah, there's this thing.
Yes, the tail ender.
Can I ring the bell on that?
Yes.
Ugh. I know that was just a brief demo, but like that would be receiving that was, I mean, Julia, she's, I think you can tell by watching that, but you know, like you're just so good at that.
Thank you.
I feel so seen, so heard, so gotten. When you said behind that cage, there's this little secret, desperate feeling. She just has this way where you're like, how does she know? How does she get me? How does she know? Because that's a master. When someone's a master at something, they know. That's, you know, my clients say that to me too sometimes.
Yeah,
you know,
thank you.
So thank you. And I, you know, this is really, you nailed it as usual. You nail it. She nails it. Much more on that. We'll have her back. Go look up EFT. Is there a website you want to say before we sing everyone out of here?
www.rawjulia.com. I'm Raw Julia on Facebook, and my email is rawjulia@yahoo.com. And I have an event next Friday, May 15th from 9 to 1. You have to pre-register. If you email me, I'll give you the details at rawjulia@yahoo.com. And it's at RCADD, the Rockland Council on Drug and Alcohol Dependency, and it's
RCADD.com.
Rockland, yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And it's on, you know, people who have been affected by addiction, whether they have addiction or whether they are affected by people with addiction.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So, rawjulia.com?
At Yahoo. Oh, yeah, rawjulia.com.
Yeah. And for New Yorkers, it's rawjulia.com. Because you're also, we didn't even mention it, an expert at raw food preparation, amazing, incredible, delicious, nutritional expert.
Yes.
I mean, like,
Yes.
nutritional expert, raw food expert, amazing. I've tasted her incredible preparations, and she's
Thank you.
So we're going to take you out with a song.
It was my favorite childhood song. We didn't practice at all.
That's fine. Should we pause? No?
Okay. So it was sung by Loretta Lynn, who's
Oh.
from 20 minutes from where I'm from, and Conway Twitty. And I'm 5'11", and when I was a kid, I was very tall, long legs and real skinny. My dad used to call me Flagpole. And I'd lay down in the back of his big New Yorker, Chrysler New Yorker, and he'd be driving. I have this memory of being night and looking out the big window at the stars and listening to classic country or baseball games. And
I love it.
And this was my favorite song. I was obsessed with Legendary Love when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. So you just start singing.
Okay.
I'll join in when I can.
Okay.
And goodbye, everybody. Mwah. See you next week.
Thank you. Hey, Louisiana woman, Mississippi man, we get together every time we can. Mississippi River can't keep us apart. There's too much love in the Mississippi heart. Too much love in this Louisiana heart. See the alligators are all waiting nearby. Sooner or later they know I'm gonna try. When she waves from the bank, don't you know I know it's goodbye fishing line. See you while I go. With the Louisiana woman waiting on the other side, the Mississippi River don't look so wide. We have the Hudson River here. So.
Yes.
Louisiana woman, Mississippi man, we get together every time we can.
Forget
The
tone.
Mississippi River can't keep us apart. There's too much love in this Mississippi heart. Too much love in this Louisiana heart. Well, I thought I'd been loved, but I never had till I was wrapped in the arms of a Mississippi man. When he holds me close. Hold on, we need to allow some time for the drawl.
You go.
Okay. When he holds me close, it feels almost like another hurricane just ripped the coast. If he can't come to me, I'm gonna go to him. That Mississippi River, Lord, I'm gonna swim. Hey, Louisiana woman, Mississippi man, we get together every time we can. The Mississippi River can't keep us apart. There's too much love in this Mississippi heart. Too much love in this Louisiana heart. Well, Mississippi River, Lord, it's 1 mile wide, and I'm gonna get me to the other side. Mississippi man, I'm a losing my mind. Gotta have your lovin' one more time. I'm gonna jump in the river, and here I go. Too bad, alligator, you swim too slow. Hey, Louisiana woman, Mississippi man, we get together every time we can. The Mississippi River can't keep us apart. There's too much love in the Mississippi heart. Too much love in Louisiana heart. There's too much love in the Mississippi heart. Too much love in Louisiana heart. Hey!
Hey! Too much love in the Mississippi heart.
Too much love in the Louisiana heart.
One more time.
There's too much love in the Mississippi heart. Too much love in the Louisiana heart. I think we should have practiced.
It's okay. It's all about love.
Yeah, and without that story, hell. Well, I gotta jump in that river and go get that man.
Exactly. And on that, we'll say bye, y'all. Thanks, y'all, for coming. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And y'all come back now. You hear? Well.